So as most of you know, if you've watched this channel at all, that I like to look for things that I can turn into an antenna. And in truth, there's a lot of things around the house or around your local hardware store that you can turn into an antenna. Some of them work pretty well, some of them not so well. So this is my carport that I built, a few years ago now. And I was intending on putting solar panels up there, but I've got a better idea. So many of you see a carport roof, but I'm looking at this and I'm seeing a ground plane. And what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to put a JPC-12 right there in the middle of it, this time in the shack. So you might be thinking, why put a JPC-12 on the roof of a carport? Well, there's one good reason, and that is that I don't have a really good 40-meter antenna for long distance contacts for DX. I've got a really good NVIS antenna behind me here, up in the air. You probably can't see it. But it's too low to the ground to be effective for long distance. So one of the best things that you can do for DX on 40 meters is just run a vertical. So that's what that's the purpose of this whole experiment, is see if I can get a JPC-12 set up on 40 meters to work with a little bit of elevation on a carport roof. So if I can achieve that, in theory, the JPC-12 on 40 meters is still going to be better than a horizontal dipole that's technically too low to the ground to work effective DX. So that's the plan. So I've got my feed point for the JPC-12 here. The plan is to sandwich one of the 2x4s that I have holding the carport roof and then drill a hole through the carport roof. Yes, I'm going to drill a hole through my carport roof. I really don't want to do that. But we don't get a lot of rain here, and I'll take some steps with some RTV to waterproof it. And then, of course, I'm going to have to scrape a little paint off so that I can run a ground screw, but I'm going to do that from the inside so that the bare metal is not going to be exposed to moisture, we hope. So I'm going to try and waterproof the ground screw as well. But the idea is to run this up through the 2x4, through the sheet metal of the roof. We'll drop this flat washer in there. We'll screw a nut and we'll tighten it down, sandwiching both of these flat washers. I have my nice little ground attachment point right here. This is a fuel sender for an old Ford, or retro fuel sender that had a ground attachment. That's why that's that little ground attachment. And then I'll have to drill a second hole in the sheet metal, but I'll do that at the top of the corrugation so it'll have less chance of leakage. And then I'll put a ground wire in, like so, so that it's grounded to the sheet metal of the roof. And the panels overlap, and they don't have to be technically grounded to each other because the overlap is a capacitive coupling between the panels. Should work just fine. But anyway, once I get all that done, then I can just screw my JPC-12 to the top of that and adjust it for 40 meters. So I'm going to run the stainless 102 whip that I have, which is like 2 or 3 inches longer than the telescoping whip. And the reason I'm going to do that is because these telescoping whips aren't really designed to be left out in the weather, where a 102 stainless whip can handle some moisture and it can handle some wind. So that should work out better. The tuning is very, very close. I think the stainless 102 whip that I had at 5.5 megahertz checked about, or 6.5 megahertz, something like that, 6.4 megahertz. Or 5.5? I can't remember. Anyway, it checked about 100 kilohertz higher on frequency, even though it was longer, which surprised me. So 100 kilohertz we can take out with 1 or 2 coils on our JPC-12 coil, adjustable coil there. So should be a fun project. I hope it works. In theory, it should work because the entire roof of the carport is going to act like the plate of a capacitor. So that's one plate, and then the other plate's going to be the ground. And even though there's 9 feet separating those two things, it should in theory work. It's not acting like a radial. It's acting like an actual capacitive coupling with the ground. So the size is kind of irrelevant. It does matter, especially the lower in frequency that you go. And that's the reason why it's tough to get good 40 meter performance in a mobile if your car is really small, or if you have a 4-wheel drive that's really high off the ground, because 40 meters requires a bigger capacitive coupling than 20 meters or 10 meters does. But in theory, this should work. The carport roof is big, so I think I got enough space. It should work on just about any frequency that I want to use this on. So before I run out of courage, let me go drill 2 holes. So I'm going to make my changes and do my drillings off this step ladder. And what I've done is I've just come in, let's see, 1, 2, 3 boards are 2 feet apart. So this is 2, 4, 6 feet to the edge of the carport roof. And the reason I've done that is because I don't want to walk on this carport roof. It's very, very thin sheet metal. And if I walk on it, it's going to potentially dent it, and I don't want that. So all I'm going to do is just drill a hole as far in as I can reach. I can already see one problem. That washer that I chose for the top is going to be too big. I'll have to get a smaller one, but we'll deal with that in a second. Let me go ahead and make a hole. So I'm deliberately drilling through a 2x4 because this sheet metal, typically this roofing is very, very thin. Unsupported, with a little bit of a wind, it would probably buckle. So therefore, by doing it this way, I'll have the support of the 2x4, which should work out very well. Okay, now I just need to drill a hole for my ground strap, which probably I'm going to put right here, but let me look underneath to make sure I can reach that. And the answer to that is no, because here is my hole in 2x4, and then if I were to drill that, I don't know, can I reach it? Let's see. I need to be able to get up in there and somehow tighten that down. I don't know, I think I might be better off to make a longer ground strap and come over here, or use one of these shallow. Yeah, I think that maybe, I'm gonna go grab that ground strap real quick. So, yeah, I should be able to just make a hole right there in this little shallow indentation, which will still be a better place for leakage because it'll be higher than this channel here and this channel here. It should work out good. So let me go ahead and punch that through right now while I got the drill. Okay, 2 holes in my carport roof. I'm committed now. Okay, next step is to upsize that hole. Can't do it from under here. I have to do it from up top. I got too much angle. We have protuberance, so here was the original washer that I was going to use. That's just not going to work. So I've got another option here. You know, I think that might just do it. It's gonna crinkle this a little bit on the way down, but it's got the 2x4 support under it. It's a little too small. So we're gonna go with this. And then all I'm gonna do to waterproof it is I'm just gonna take some silicone and just put silicone around where the washer is going to seat against the sheet metal. And then also put some on the thread of the bolt. That way as it clamps down, it's going to seal the threads of the bolt just nicely. Now, since the carport roof is angled just a little bit, this antenna is going to be angled as well. There are ways around that. I could build a specific mount that's canceling out the angle of the carport roof, and if this is a successful test, I might do that, but for now, I just kind of want to see if it works. Nice and tight. That should work just fine. First thing I'm going to do is just sand off the paint on the ground, where my ground is going to be. And that should work okay. You can see bare metal. So now I will go get some dielectric grease and my bolt, and I'm not sure. Oh, I know how I can do this. Okay. So actually a better way to do it, I just realized, is just to drop the bolt in from the top, put the nut on the bottom. So all we're going to do is just a little bit of waterproofing on there. And drop the nut on like that. And then we can go down below and hook our ground strip up. Decide we don't want silicone, although I smeared some on there by accident anyway. But we do want dielectric grease. I'm going to need both hands to get this started. And of course, the bolt wants to spin, so we'll clamp it with a pair of vice grips. Okay, so now it's just a simple matter of putting my ground lead in there. Nicely snug. And we are ready to screw an antenna to the top of this. Ooh, a little top heavy. See if I get lucky and it's clocked right. No. Okay, now I need a common mode choke. Here's one. Okay, now we got a common mode choke. We'll just put this in here. Okay, and there you have it, a JPC-12 mounted to a carport roof. I've set the coil for 40 meters, but I'm sure I'm going to have to do some tuning. And hey, the first iteration is going to be a little bit low on frequency, so I'm going to run out there and take a couple turns out of the coil, and we're going to shoot for about 7.2 something. And I took 3 turns out of it, and we're at 1.3 to 1 at 7.200. So that's probably pretty good, because if I want to do FT8, let's see if it'll go down. So yeah, it's call it 2.4 to 1 at 7.9 JPC-12.060. And then the high end, that's reachable with the tuner of the radio, of course. And then the high end will be, well, it'll cover the whole band with a little bit of tuner action on the radio. Okay, so this has been a very successful experiment. Right now I'm transmitting on FT8 at 100 watts. And my SWR is completely flat out. And I'm hearing 3Y0K on Bouvet Island, whatever that is, the DXpedition in south of Africa. So I've never heard 3Y0K on my horizontal antenna because it's not high enough, but I am hearing them on a JPC-12 mounted to a carport roof, which to me is significant. That means the DX part of this whole experiment was a success. So I'm glad I did this, and the next thing for me to do would be to check it on 20 meters and maybe 10 meters as well. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy some 40 meter DX, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.